Single best idea, and today was an extraordinary day on Bloomberg Surveillance. Our team just did a great job of eclectic guests. We finished strong with Elliot Ackerman in celebration of his new book, 2054, with James Stavridis. I'll have a lot more to say about that, I'm thinking, in April or May. I actually try to read the books that I'm big on, and I will have to wade through 2054 about the tensions that our military faces. But today was wonderfully eclectic in equities. Tony Dwyer was with us with a broad view of the linkage of recession and those fears to tepid participation in equities away from Mag 7. There were all sorts of others, but what we really had was dueling quants. I can't say enough, and I'm not going to go into it here because we're trying to keep this podcast tight, but I can't say enough about the development of modern quantitative academics, which came out of Imperial College in London with Paul Wilmot, with all sorts of work out of other institutions, including foundational work at Princeton, and particularly Andrew Lo, L-O, Andrew Lo, up at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We are thrilled to bring you today Katy Kaminski at Alpha Simplex out of the MIT Combine. But first, Amy Wu Silverman of RBC out of the Princeton Quant Combine. These people are wicked smart. They're the ones that got the A in your math class. And the answer is they really try to devolve the complexities of the Greek letters and what are called cross moments down to a mere mortal conversation like you can digest on Bloomberg Surveillance. We digressed with Amy Wu Silverman, and of course, we looked at her cross moments and Bitcoin.
The really interesting thing I would say about Bitcoin, because, you can't dabble in volatility without dabbling in crypto a little, is that this has historically been a risk asset correlation that's actually been positive, even though it's been made out not to be. However, we are actually seeing that correlation decline. So if you look 3 years ago, the correlation between just the simple equity market and Bitcoin was fairly positive, and it is still positive, to be clear, but it's actually come in a lot. And so it may actually begin to be behaving in the inflation hedge / equity hedge that it was purported to be in the beginning.
Amy Wu Silverman there with RBC on Bitcoin. And of course, we did talk to her about the broader equity market and some of the oddities out there, particularly the mass speculation in options in option day trading. I guess it's speculation, or maybe it's almost like the roulette wheel at a casino. Katy Kaminski is with Alpha Simplex, and the heart and soul of what they do, which I'm familiar with, is trend following. This is a cottage industry which goes back a solid 40 years, much of it out of the greater New York City area. And the idea here is not so much to catch the knife in the dark. The idea here is not to get right on the bottom of the trend going up or the top of the trend going down, but rather just to find the trend and monitor it as you invest, and not day trading, but invest out weeks, quarters, and months. Katy Kaminski, of course, looking at this extraordinary bull market. Here she is on the quants, the cross moments of our equity market.
When you look right now at where equities have moved, the turning point was in October. And it's been, look at S&P. It's up almost 25% since October. So pretty much over any window where you measure the strength of the trend, you're seeing a pretty strong signal that we're going straight to the moon. And so I think that's where, I'm surprised at how incredibly resilient this market has been. If you told me in January that February is going to be as amazing as it was, I would have not believed you.
Katy Kaminski there, and I really want to talk with Alpha Simplex, and I really want to talk for a moment here about the underlying here in the Bloomberg terminal. All of this came out of really a bunch of really, really smart people working off Sun Microsystems Spark stations way in the back. It wasn't PCs and DEC and Wang and, what Microsoft did with Intel and all that. It was more sophisticated right from the get-go. And it involves Sun Microsystem, I can't remember the name, mid-frame computers, I think is what they were called. But they did it off a Spark station. What Mike Bloomberg and Tom Secunda did to bring some of those mathematical dynamics over to the Bloomberg terminal was, at the time, and I remember this clearly, nothing short of an act of God. They basically took high-powered Sun Microsystems work and brought over those chart dynamics so you could establish a trend. For those of you that have a Bloomberg, For those of you that want to get a Bloomberg, one of the major reasons is what's called stochastic analysis, but far, far more importantly, and you know I'm on this, I think of Chris Verone and Strategas the same way, we are into trend-based following. And you do that with moving averages. You do that with all sorts of other technical studies, much of them founded by a guy named Wells Wilder and brought forward in the quantitative finance space of people at Princeton and people at MIT, like Amy Wu Silverman and Katy Kaminski. You can do all that on the Bloomberg. Check it out. This is single best idea. And don't forget, you can see us on Apple CarPlay. It's really working out. The Bloomberg Business app, it's free. You go there, it's safer and better, as Apple says. Apple, and we were thrilled by the numbers. I actually got briefed on it this morning. I was like, really? 69 nations are listening to us on Apple CarPlay and on YouTube. We're thrilled by the international coverage and, of course, across the nation. On YouTube, search Bloomberg Podcasts, and you'll find us there 7 to 10 Wall Street time. Again, Bloomberg Surveillance on Apple CarPlay and on YouTube.